So anyway, what I wanted to discuss with you is a bit of PowerPoint, and the reason being that sometimes I run into things that I see in your presentations that I have learned over the years how to make PowerPoint a very powerful tool, and learned how to do, and that sometimes you guys don't know or realize. I didn't exactly plan what I'm going to show you, so feel free, first of all, to ask questions or give all kinds of comments. But and I will try to look and kind of wing it of what I wanted to show you during this talk. So wait, I'm trying to move the bar of Zoom here. Okay, so so I opened PowerPoint, and you guys all see my PowerPoint window, right? And you see it okay? It's big enough?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. So the first thing, and this is probably, I would say, the most important here, is what is called the views or master view. Okay, so if I go to the view, this thing is called the ribbon. Everybody probably knows that by now. It was a big change in the office a number of years ago, and some people hated it, but I guess we got used to it. If you go to the view tab on the ribbon, you have over here these different views, and there are different things you can choose here and play with them. Normal view is what you were usually on. There's this outline view, slide sorter view, notes page, and reading view. I don't know how now to get out of this, but let's see. Okay, that worked. Um, anyway, I basically never use any of the other ones. They do have their uses, but usually we're on normal view. But on the second thing, we have this thing called the master views, and this is a very important thing that is in PowerPoint. And so, if I go to Slide Master, that basically is the templates that we can use for a new slide. Okay, and really, before doing any presentation, you should start with setting up your Slide Master. Okay, it makes things look like in a standard way. It gives you the different options, and I've already set it up for us on the NX template, and I'll show you later and how to change things and why. But just to get an understanding of this, so basically, on this master view, we have different slides here that are different templates that you can use. So, like this is a master title slide, and and it has the date underneath and some sort of a footer here and the page number, and it has a title which is this size of a font, like it's a Calibri light with 60 points. That's the size of the font here. And then it has a subtitle area, which is a Calibri body with a 24 size. And that's the this thing, and we can also give it a name. Um, it's called the title slide layout. Okay, so if I go back, there's a button here that's close master view, or I can go back to view and press normal, right? And I take this and my slide that I'm standing on right now, and I do a right click. One of the things on the right click down here is layout. And layout basically has all of those master view slides that we just looked at. So one of them was called the title slide view. And if I click on it, then I get this. Maybe I gave a bit bad example. But if I was looking at something else like this, and then I go down to layout, okay, one of the options which we were playing with was title slide. I can just click on that. It gives me exactly what we had there. This title, which is Calibri light with 60 size 60. The subtitle, which is Calibri body 24. And I'm not sure why. And there are different games here, but we don't see the things that were on the bottom, and you'd have to look into it that a bit better to understand why. But um, in any case, so going back to this slide master thing, we have all these different things which we can choose from. So there's a content with caption layout, right? And if we write here blah 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 instead of this, then and right here we can also write blah blah blah. what was this one called? It was called content with caption layout, right? If we go back to the top, now I can look for content with caption layout and I get this blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah over here. That's what it says there. That was actually just, I guess, the text of saying what it says to do here, which is there's some way to do it. I'm not sure that I even know. Uh, but you can change things and move things around and change font sizes and all kinds of things with this master view. Okay, so this is the master view. But as you see, there's some hierarchy here on the side. So this top one is like the main master. The other ones they somehow inherit from the main master, and so you can do different things on the this main master that will then be taken over and added to all of its hierarchical sons. Uh, for example, just what the bullets look like, the first level, second level, and so forth. And if you have this actually, these dates and so forth and so on. And it's really important to set this up again before we start doing things. You can set the slide size if it's standard or widescreen. Um, you can do all kinds of things here. If we change like I can put in, I don't know, uh okay, just for example, if I come here on the title slide and I do format background, for example, I can make the background red or something like that. And then if we go and again out of where's our slide master, close slide master, and we again choose our layout of our title slide, now it will be red. Okay, and as the background that inherits from our slide master view. Questions about that? It's really important, and I'll show you what happens inside the annex one in a second. No questions about that? Okay. Um, so really, you should try to set things up with a slide master before you start working, or else things get really ugly if you start trying to do them kind of manually in what you call it here. So I think let me see here. No, that's not what I wanted. Okay, let's just open up a some sort of a presentation. Wait a second. Let me just stop the recording for a second. Okay, so what I did here is I opened up the Enix template that I made at some point, and I tell you guys all to use. And if I go
Well,
into what?
Adi,
Yeah.
where can we find the latest updated NX template?
Okay, I'll show you that in a minute. But in general, it's on the wiki. Okay, and in general, now it shouldn't change too much. I hope, but that's a good question because it's important. Do not use the edX template that Roman sends you because it will say 2015 or something on the date, and it will have the old Barilan logo, and then everyone will have the wrong template and so forth, and not pay
The
attention
old
to it
logo
except for
is
me.
better. The
What?
old logo is better.
Yes, much better. And I work hard to update things, and then you guys use the old one. And then you go show presentations and say 2019 when we're in 2021, right? Okay, so
And yeah,
uh,
I'm right now copying a presentation from you with an old logo.
yeah, because they changed the logos of Barilan like 3 times in the last few years, and I didn't go and update all of my old presentations because it's quite a lot of work, but at some point I may do it. It's when I make a new one, I put the new presentation. Anyway, so here what we have is I made the master title first of all to be, as you can see, pretty thick because I don't need this empty space on the sides. I used this blue type of century font, and then these are the levels of the bullets that you see here, and it has the slide number over here. and we have the background, which is the Enix logo, which is kind of transparent, so it doesn't bother very much. So that comes from the top hierarchy of this master view, and under it, I made it simple. I found out that with all those, you saw that in the standard default PowerPoint thing, there are like 10 different layouts or something. Basically you never use any of them, so I made it simple. I cut it down so there are only four layouts you use. One of them is the main title over here, which also includes a date that updates automatically. Okay, it has the NX logo and the Bailan logo. We have a title without anything in it if we want to stick a picture or something like that. It has this copyright with the date. The NX one says NX Labs here, not Adam Tiemann. Okay. And the date now, it updates to the year, the current year, which was quite hard to get it to happen right. And so I made some trick here, which may be ugly if you try to do certain things. But never mind. At least you know how to update it and where to change it. Now you know that it's inside the master view, and it works for the title with text. Okay, this is the title with text, and the section header. So this is when you make a new section, you put in this one. Now again, some people use a different font. Like here, I don't remember why exactly, but I chose Arial Narrow, which is boldface. And then the second level, third level, they're already Arial. And with the smaller and smaller writing, there's a certain spacing around the lines, which I can show you in a minute how to do and so forth. But you can change this if you want. Please make it aesthetic and readable. That's the main thing. Some people like to use like Calibri or some other text, but it comes from the master view. So do it in the master view. Don't do it per slide, and don't copy the slides. Just change it in the master view if you want to change something to make it look better. I am not a graphic artist. I just chose this template for us, um, which I am willing to have somebody with a better eye come and change and so forth. But it's important, I think, that we do use something that somebody with some eye looked at and not just threw ugly things on the screen, which is how many of the people I look at just make their slides, which come out really ugly. Okay, so that is the master view. And what that means is that when I start here, when I go to layout, there are only um, four templates. And really, I have found that this is plenty. I use these four all the time. It's sufficient, no need for more. Just something else. Let's say I made my title over here and I made it real big or something like that. Let's hope that my examples work here. And I want to go back to the original, what was in the template that Adi decided on. You can right click and do reset slide, and it will put it back to what was in the master thing. That you don't usually have to do it here on like a title slide, but often in a one of these guys, you have different things that change sizes, or if you copy and paste from something else, you get things that look all kinds of weird and strange and who knows what. And then often you can just take it and go reset slide, and it puts things back looking normal again. So that's a really thing that I do often, is right click on the slide and do reset slide. Okay, questions about that? Okay, that's why I want to have these things in person, because you guys don't ask questions. Maybe you're not listening.
No, I'm just waiting until you get to the next slide.
Okay, so there are many things in formatting that I'll show you, but if I already opened the NX template up, I made something that I use, you for sure don't have to use, but it kind of is cool, and it kind of makes at least a type of an outline. It's something that the PowerPoint automatically put in, and I like it, and you've seen it in my different slides. It's called a Zoom summary, okay? And before we use this Zoom summary, we have to set up some things. what we have to do is actually go, I mean, what you should do is make sections in your outline. So we have this long thing here, which is hard to navigate and so forth. But as you see here, I have, for example, introduction is a section. And when I clicked it, I got all of this section was marked, and then section 2 and section 3. And each of these sections starts with one of these section headers, in other words, layout. Section header, okay, not title and not title only and not title and content, right? So first of all, how do we make these sections? Let's say we wanted a new section over here. We can right click here and do add section. Okay, it adds a section. We give it some name. By the way, the name doesn't really matter. It's just to make things more orderly for us. And then I can put whatever slide I want here, but usually I would put some sort of, let's say I make a new slide over here. I would usually make a section header slide over here. And let's say it has whatever on it. Okay. And now I go to, so since I did that, I made these different sections, which I can they help me, I can collapse them so I don't see them. It's kind of nice, these sections. So I don't use them to the maximum. But anyway, I go over to this summary section. And what I originally did, if I remember correctly, is I went to the insert tab, I clicked on zoom, and I hit summary zoom. Okay. You can do it. You can play with the other ones. They also do kind of certain things that can be nice. You can do all kinds of cool things that PowerPoint has brought in. But now it created this slide. You know what? Let's erase it and do. Oops.
I
Insert
usually
summary
just
zoom.
make it update.
Yeah, I know. I was just showing what I did originally. So originally I did zoom, insert, summary, zoom. Okay. And then this is the same thing that happens when you do update. It opens this thing that shows all of the slides in my presentation. Right now I have 12 slides, but it automatically it checks as a recommendation the first slide in each section. Okay. And I say I want the first slide in each section, which usually makes sense. I do insert, and it creates this zoom. Now, I don't like this that much, at least how we have it. I would rather add a line around it so it makes it look better. Maybe you can add just a gray line or something, and not, or the black line is kind of too heavy. So I usually like do some gray line, maybe add some sort of a nice background to it, like by going to this zoom tab, which appeared here after we clicked on the zoom, and I can choose all kinds of formatting for these things. So something like that kind of looks better than how it looked before flat. And so now I have my summary zoom. And if when I do animation, I don't know how it'll show if I share, but it will make that cool, like um, transition between each section and keep on showing us the outline.
You can
Questions about that?
also enter if you just click this. You can enter it out of order from this thing also.
Yes, on your when you're presenting, you can just click on it, and it will enter that section, just as like any other hyperlink. Questions about that? Okay. Um, Another thing, if we're talking about the NX template, and this for sure you don't need to use, and you can do it differently, but this is how I prepared it, is it's kind of, I think it helps when you give a presentation. And something, for example, Odem asked me when making her presentation, does she have to give an outline? Or maybe it was you, Roman, I can't remember. But this type of a Zoom summary or some sort of content, like a table of contents, it kind of shows whoever we're working with what to expect and what is going to appear in our presentation and how we're progressing it and so forth. So it's nice that every time you come back and show the table of contents and where you are in the table of contents. And another thing that I kind of like to add is this bar, which is something that I added from one of the smart art or something like that. I can't even remember. but I think it's Smart Art or one of those things that PowerPoint gives. That what this does is it just shows me again, and I manually have to update what the sections are, and then I manually color this particular section that I'm at with the color of where I am. Okay, so I gave you in the template an example of it, but how do I update this all the time? Well, first of all, when I click on this Smart Art thing, there's this little thing over here. Then I click on it, and it shows me the summary. So now I can change section 2 to something else, to blah blah, and it will update over here. I can also just go into here and do blah blah, and it will be over there. Now let's say this is this section. And first of all, I can close this because it's driving me nuts. I can add new things here too, right? So easily I can just add another section over here and so forth, and it will resize it. I'm not crazy about how the resizing is, so sometimes I do make it a little bit, how would I do that? I guess choose them all and make them fatter or smaller. You have to play around with this sometimes, okay? But it doesn't really matter. It's just a question of taste, how you like your things looking. Anyway, but let's say this is the section. Or I actually want to update now all the sections to look like this. So, oops. So let's say I was over here and I want to get rid of this and change it to how the other one looks. So I erase that. I go back to here. Okay. Let's say, okay. I choose it and I copy it over to here. Okay. And then I want to turn this into gray and this into red. So you go click on it. So now this second one is selected. I go to Smart Art Design or Format. Okay. Which these things appeared dynamically. They weren't there unless I went into the Smart Art. Okay. And now I go and I find the one I wanted, which I think is that. Okay. And then I go into this, and either I can go into here and use the Format Painter and copy it onto there. That works. Or I could have done it the other way. But let's say I wanted to do it on many different pages. Okay. So what I usually do in that case is, so I select this, copy it, paste it over here, turn this, okay, into that color, because instead of looking for the color, now copy this. Okay, go copy, copy, copy. Now I have this just gray one on all of them. I can go here, okay, and for example, I can take this, copy the thing, go to the next slide, put it on this one, okay. Instead of doing that again or going nuts with the Format Painter, I can go to the next thing, click on this, and click on F4. F4 is a magical key in PowerPoint and Word and different Office things that I'm sure that none of you knew about.
No,
What does F4 do? Anyone
probably
know?
probably format painter some kind.
Anyone else?
Try Alt F4.
I don't know what Alt F4 does, but what does F4 do? No one? So F4 repeats the last operation you did. It's something the VI people know well, right, Tzachi? Repeat
I
the
don't know what for.
I think the dot does it on VI and Vim. You redo the last thing you did. Anyway, so it's really helpful because if you do complex things and you don't want to go and press 10 buttons to redo them on every page, you can just hit F4 all the time and it redoes what you just did. So F4.
Specifically for the brush, you can double click the
Yes,
brush.
true, but that is true. So Tzachi says you can do this. If I double click the brush, I can go and do it on all kinds of places. But often you do something, it screws it all up, and then you don't have that double click on the brush. But anyway, Format Painter is not always what you want. Okay, if we're already talking about how to do Format Painter and repeat options and stuff, there's an even better way or an additional way, like a second clipboard for Format Painter. So I don't know, maybe not. Does everybody know what the Format Painter is? Anyone not know what the format painter is? Please give me some feedback here so I know that I'm not talking
I
to.
don't know what it is.
Okay, good. Thank you. So please say, I don't know, so I'll explain it. This is Century Gothic size 60. But here, I want this. Wait, let me get rid of that. I want this to be Century Gothic size 60. Okay, with spacing around it and all kinds of things. So what I would do here is I can click on this format painter thing, go up to this slide, click over here, and now guess what? I got Century Gothic size 60. Cool, right or not?
Yeah.
Okay, that's very important. It really helps getting things looking similar to each other at different places. But the problem is that you see that this is not pressed anymore. Now, what Tsachi said is I can go double click this and double click on the format painter. Okay. And now I can go over here and do it, over here, do it, over here, do it, here, do it. I can do it in, it's persistent. You see that it doesn't disappear, this format painter, right? It's pressed. And to get out of it, I press escape. Whoops. I press escape. Now you see it's not pressed. And now when I click on something, it doesn't change its size. So does anyone know how to keep it persistent without driving us nuts? How to copy it to a clipboard? No, good. So I'm teaching you something. So I can double
Adi.
click on this, for example. What?
Ask Adi.
Yes. Ask Google is a better thing. Control Shift C will copy whatever I clicked on, which is now Century 16 black, to the thing. Now, if I click on this, Control Shift, what do you think?
The
V.
V, you see, turned it black. Control Shift V made it that size and that font. Control Shift V made it black, you see? And what's nice about this, it's persistent. I can go over here now, I can do a whole bunch of other things and then do Control Shift V. Very, very, very cool and useful. For example, let's say I now wrote some sort of code. Print hello world, which I do often in my slides, right? And I imagine you guys too. But I don't want it to be in this Century Gothic 60 font. I want it to be in a mono-spaced font. Does everybody, who, let me not ask, does everybody, who doesn't know what a mono-spaced font is?
I don't know.
A mono-spaced font is a font that each character, you see the P is kind of thick, but the R is kind of thin,
Mhm.
right? That makes it easy when you write code to miss how many characters there are. Like a period is very small, it might be very important, right? So you want a mono-spaced font where every single character has the same width, okay? So usually when you see code snippets, they're going to be in a mono-spaced font. So there are many monospaced fonts if we go and look over here. The most common one is, what's the most common one? Tachi, remind me what it's called?
Courier, COU.
Courier, yes. Courier New. Okay, but so you see that everything is monospaced here? The I and the N and the R, they're all the same thickness, and even the space is the same thickness. Okay? I don't like Courier New because it's ugly as hell and it's really thick. Like it's really wide. Okay. So I found out that a lot of textbooks and stuff use a different font called Consolas. I didn't select it. Consolas. Okay. Which I kind of like better. It's also monospaced. All right. And let's say I want all my strings to be colored purple. Okay. And now I want to change in many places things to be monospaced like a string. So I can do Control Shift C, Control Shift V, and hoppa, I got my thing copied over there, which really helps me do things. I want this to be like that. Tuck, it does it. I want this to be like that. duck, it does it. Cool. Control Shift C, Control Shift V. Instead of every time going and doing the format painter and then clicking on it, which often gets unclicked and so forth. Okay.
You should mention it. It's also for boxes and circles, not only for text.
Yes, also true. So we haven't discussed any shapes and so forth. Yes, yet, but that is also true. As Sahi said, let's say I made this and it's really not what I wanted. I wanted it to be yellow with a thing outlined and thick. So I made it real thick. Okay. Now I can go do this. Control Shift C. I'll make another circle. I'll make a box. Okay. And now I click on it, Control Shift V. Boom. It became the same thing, which is really, really helpful and cool. Questions about that?
So you select the first figure and then Control Shift C and then just select the other.
So it's just the format painter, right? So the same thing would have happened. Let's make another one.
No,
Right?
but I mean, if you, for example, have a line with.
Wait a second. Let's take this. Format painter will also do it. Okay. So it's the same as format painter. It's just persistent. It's like on a clipboard. Control Shift C, Control Shift V. Now I cannot change just the line width. I copy all of the properties. Let's say I wanted to change just the line width of, let's say this was blue. Or something like that, right? Now and this had a line that was this size. I want to make the line this size here without changing the color. What can I do?
Check the line width there and compare with here.
Yes, I can
What I
look
do.
at the thing. What is the line width? The line width is 1 point and go over here and change it to 1 point. But what else can I do? Because that's a pain in the neck.
Right.
Or I
Down,
just
down.
did it. F4, which does the last operation I did. Cool, no?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If anybody else finds out any of the other shortcuts, please tell me because they're really useful.
Yeah, that's cool. Both F4 and Control Shift. I didn't know about.
Yeah, these are things that I often. Okay, now, but Adi, how did you get this over here? Because it was really useful and I can never find it. Anyone want to
have
ask
to
me
add
that?
to you have to add it to the ribbon.
Actually, not the ribbon.
Uh,
But yes,
this,
Esteban is right. So I come and I want text outline to be something that I use a lot. Okay, so I want it to appear here. Okay, so for most things, not everything, I can right click on it and add the quick access toolbar and it will appear here. Okay. Now for you guys, it doesn't appear there. It appears, wait a second. Where does it appear? It appears up here.
mhm.
Okay, but for some reason, Office added me this search thing that takes up room and all this junk, and I wanted more room. So I don't like it up here because I use this thing a lot. So I did show quick access toolbar below the ribbon. So first of all, it appears here instead of up there.
Mm,
Okay. And second of all, I don't like how I just kept adding things and they keep adding it to the end and get real long or whatever. I wanted it to be in a certain order so I can always find things and use them again and so forth. So I can go and right click and do customize quick access toolbar, or I can go file options, customize quick access toolbar. And here I have my whole quick access toolbar. Okay, you can move things up and down. Okay, and you can find every single command that's possible. If you look through here enough, you can find all the commands that there are. And whatever you find out you're using a lot, you just open this and you go add. You already have it, but okay, let's say this. I added it, and now if I would say okay, it would appear here. I don't want to do this because It will. I don't want to save things, all these games that I just made, because they will bother me. But something really nice about it is you can do import export. You do export all customizations, and then after you format your computer or whatever, or go to a different computer, you can just import that file. And I may have even put my quick access toolbar at some point on the wiki, so other people can use it. Okay, if somebody wants. So that's really nice. It also helps with giving all these things that you use often. Of course, after doing this, I don't know what half of them do and so forth, but some things I really use a lot, like, for example, the line width, right? Um, Not everything, unfortunately, can be added to the quick access toolbar. You can also, by the way, customize your ribbons down there. Questions, additions, and so forth about that? Okay. Let's see. Just some other things about the NX template that I did here, but I never used in the end. Oh, shoot. No, it wasn't there. Where was it? I thought I had. Well,
The thing in the bottom of the
the
screen.
bottom, yeah.
I saw it in the template itself, but I don't think I have a slide with it.
No, it's not. It disappeared somewhere. I don't know what happened. I must have erased it. Ah, here we go.
Here it is.
Okay, so we had this thing for, like, that is the same as the, in my approach, and no one has to keep on this approach, but we have the zoom, right, like this. That's the section headers, okay? And the same names appear here and show us how we're advancing in the slides. But sometimes, not very often, but sometimes, especially in like courses and stuff, I do sub like things that I inside a section I go and advance. So I made this bottom bar that also you can show how you're advancing inside some subsection, which is also nice to use. There are explanations how to do this in the notes down here, and you can make the notes bigger or smaller, like doing this. So if somebody needs help with this, it explains how to do it. Okay, in the NX template.
But it's same pen in the as you have with the upper one, because I didn't find a way to change them all in the same time.
No, it's the same exact smart art, right? You can change it here, and then you have to copy it to each next one.
Yeah, but if
But
you
anyway,
change
I usually only update this once I've finished, and you see that in my slides, sometimes I forget to do it. Once I finish doing the whole content, then I update the first one and then go and copy it into the second one and update where the red part is. I didn't find an automatic way to do it. Maybe there is, but I didn't find it.
I looked for some time and couldn't also find.
No, I don't think there is. I mean, maybe there's a different type of smart art that does it better. I don't know. Okay, so we discussed some of those things there. Let's see. Okay, nothing very important that I wanted to talk about here, I believe. Okay, so just going over some of the options, I'm going to look for things that I use often and maybe want to show you guys. Okay. Okay.
Adi, maybe talk about the transparent color in images.
Yes,
useful.
that's a good idea. Okay. So let's say I go and I get an image somewhere. In the background, I am looking for an image. So, okay. I found some funny picture here of a dog. It says boom. Okay. That was what came out when I wrote funny picture. How this person made this picture and got such a high result on Google Images, I don't know. But okay. So now, as you see, there's a white color over here, and it is covering my blue title over here. Well, I want to see the blue title underneath this white. I don't know why, but it happens often that I do, especially in like a graph or something like that. And with the NX template, it's even more so because we have the NX background, and when something has a white background and you don't see this, you can it makes it more ugly, in my opinion. So I do this almost always. So there is a button that I have it on my quick access toolbar, which is called set transparent color. But since you probably don't have it on your quick access toolbar, the way to get to it is this. I click on the picture. Okay, look at, you see my ribbon up here? Once I click on the photo, I get this dynamic tab called picture format. I click on that tab, okay? And I go to color, and I can play with the color of the picture with all kinds of ways, but I don't want to change the color. Okay, see, you can play with the color. That's not what I was trying to show you. Here is this set transparent color, and I do recommend to all of you, you right click on it, add the quick access toolbar. For me, it's already added. Really, really, really important. Hidden, but one of the most important buttons in PowerPoint. Okay, so I click on that. It gives me this weird looking cursor over here. And then I go to the white color over here. There's no reason to do it on any other color in this picture, because the only color that's like you know, a standard color is the white here. You usually would do it on more of like a drawing and not a photo. Okay, but here boom is like a drawing. So I click on the B over here, and it made all the white in all the exact white color that I had here. It made it transparent, and then I can see the title back here. You see how transparent? So that's really, really, really important to make things look nice, and when things overlap and so forth. Set transparent color. That's what you
It's
were.
only for white.
No, no,
white.
no. I could have done it. Okay, I can do it on the black here too. Instead,
Okay.
you can only do one color per picture. That is true, but you see, usually you only do it on white, because look what happened over here. You see, the dog's glasses, they became ugly.
Yeah, and there is also an option to do the entire picture transparent, partly transparent.
Okay, that's something else. You can do
That's
things.
sometimes more looks better.
I almost never use that, but with transparency, you can do that.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
So
but
then you
that's
don't
a
have to pick
different.
you
No,
don't have
but
to pick
that's
a
a different.
specific color.
But that's a different feature, Udi.
Yeah, but it serves the same need.
No,
You
it's
can see.
completely different. Completely different need. I took a bad picture as an example. Um,
Yeah,
Usually
but
with a drawing, you have like a white color, or maybe I copied a slide from somebody and it had a gray background, and it made it ugly because I have my whole thing is white. Okay, I stole a slide from Intel with a black background or something, and I don't want it there. So I can use this set transparent color. It will the black background will disappear, and I'll have white. One of the reasons I put this NX background, which is watermarked and transparent, is so that when people copy my photos from my PDFs, they won't be able to get completely entirely rid of me very easily. They still can, but it makes it more of a pain in the neck. I don't like to copy things from people that I see their different backgrounds in. Making something completely transparent to let it overlap or underlap something is a different thing. Okay, I agree with you that it's useful. It's just completely different. Okay. I mean, now the whole thing is like is not clear, right? And you can hit reset picture and it comes back to the original. By the way, if we're already talking about picture, so we stuck the picture here. It often looks strange to have a picture in the middle of your slide, depending on how you make the slide. But PowerPoint gives us wonderful things that Visio, for example, doesn't, which if we go into the picture format tab, we have all of these gallery styles, which are really cool, that make them look very nice. Now, 99.9% of the time, I use this one. Okay. This one looks nice. All the rest don't look as cool. But sometimes you can use other things like that, or whatever. But usually it's just this one really makes things look nice. Okay, the shadow background kind of floating thing.
PowerPoint also have like suggestions for design where you put a picture and then it puts like design templates that it
Yes.
suggests.
So PowerPoint does have that, and then 99.999% of the time I tell it stop showing me these suggestions. I didn't cancel it from.
It's a pain.
If you saw before, it did suggest for me, and I closed it. I haven't taken it off. You can get rid of it completely because I think maybe one day I'll actually use it because sometimes it has cool ideas. But when you're using a template like the NX template, or you're doing something that's not for design purposes but for informative purposes, it's usually not useful. But it's kind of nice. I mean, it's a nice feature they added. It just doesn't work when you're using a template that somebody else made for you. Okay.
Can you make the white transparent now?
Now, sure. I can always make one color transparent. Though you see, because it has a shadow, now we see the shadow behind the white, which is pretty
Yes,
ugly.
it's nice.
Huh?
It's nice.
No, it's really ugly because there was other whites in this photo. But maybe it could be nice again if it was used for a drawing. I just chose a really bad example here. Okay. Eh, what did I want to say about that? If we're already talking about the picture format thing, okay, cropping is another thing that you see I have on my toolbar, right? I don't want to see that boom, so I can get rid of it like that. Okay. Now you can also open up, of course, a Photoshop or Paint editor and do all this stuff. By the way, transparency is not something that you can do on a JPEG. You can only do it on PNGs and GIFs and some other formats. You can't do it on a JPEG. You can do it on PNGs and GIFs to get rid of all a certain color. But within PowerPoint, it lets you remove one color, as we saw. Anyway, we can crop things. But let's say I want to to make things nice again. They added a feature a number of PowerPoints ago where you can crop to a shape and an aspect ratio. So let's say, first of all, I want this square, so I can hit that, and now I can actually move around the picture inside and keep this square ratio. Okay, but I can also crop to a shape, so I can make it like round, for example, which is really nice, I think. Okay. Or I can crop to a different shape. I can make it an arrow. I think these are very cool features. Okay. People see when I do these things and go, wow, you must be artistic. And I'm like, no, PowerPoint actually built these things in for me, but no one knows that they're there. Cool.
There is also a very funny feature that when students submit a word, and then you can uncrop and find the original.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can undo the crop.
That is true, except for there is a button over here that says compress pictures. And if you do compress pictures and you do delete cropped area of pictures and get rid of apply to only this picture, it will delete that part, and then they aren't supposed to be able to see it.
As a tip regarding Roman's comment, I recommend delivering your works not in PowerPoint but in PDF. Export it to PDF and provide it in PDF. So,
That, of course.
yeah,
Never
but
give anybody
not
a
everyone does it.
It drives me nuts when somebody like the university will send me a letter in Word. I mean,
Yeah,
you can't look at it in your phone even and so forth. And these things don't go across systems well. If you look at PowerPoint for Mac, it doesn't look the same as PowerPoint for Windows and so forth. Okay. So those are things about pictures. But wait, I want to show you maybe. Let's say
one thing some people don't know how to do is to size a picture, keeping the proportions.
Okay, good idea. Okay,
Yeah.
So two very important, several ways to do this, but two very important keys that you should know for all Office products are Shift and Control. Okay,
Yeah.
so if I hold Shift down and now I pull this thing, it will always keep the proportion. Maybe it's better to show it. Let me show it on a shape, I guess is probably better. So if I do either this button here that I added to my toolbar or insert shapes, and let's say I make a circle. Okay, you see the circle is not 1-to-1 ratio. But if I hold shift down, look what happens. It becomes a 1-to-1 ratio. And then when I resize it, if I pull this, I just ruined the 1-to-1 ratio. But if I hold, wait a second, that didn't work. If I hold control down, no. So control, you see it will expand it on this both sides the same. There are different things that happen. You have to play around with it, but always use control and shift. Let's say I make a line. Okay, if I hold shift down, you see it gets 45-degree angles, which is really nice. Okay, so and then if I hold shift down, if I hold shift down, it will only make it straight. Instead of when I pull it, I can accidentally, and I always do accidentally pull it to different directions. This way I always pull it straight. Does everybody see that? Always play with control and shift. They're really helpful. Okay. It's because, okay, but let's say, I don't know what happened there. Let's say that didn't do what I wanted to do. Okay. I can right click and do format shape, and it opens this thing on the side here, which has all kinds of things, but one of them is sizing. Okay. And in size, I can just make sure they're the same size over here. I can also, what Udi was saying, I can lock the aspect ratio, and then if I make it bigger in height, it will make it bigger in width as well. Okay. So there are lots of these things I can do. I can change the position from here as well, and so forth. So we made a shape. Oh, wait, with these, right? With the line, I believe that that didn't work here. But okay, wait a second. If I make a square over here, if I make a square, I can turn it around like this, and I can actually turn it. Let's say I want it 45 degrees. I can change that over here. 45 degrees, it'll be exactly 45 degrees, which is pretty cool, right? So with these shapes, I have different things. So if I look at the format shape over here, and you can find buttons most of the time in like shape format and so forth to do this, or you can look on this. Again, this was opened by right click format shape. Okay. There's a fill. So that's the color that's inside, and I can have no fill. I can have solid fill and then choose the fill, and I can make it partially transparent as well. So I can see the background through it. Okay. I can make a gradient fill, which makes, there's all kinds of ways to play with this. You have to play around with it. Picture or texture fill. There are all kinds of these textures that you can choose from. Okay. Or you can choose a picture that fills it up from your computer or whatever. And you can make it partially transparent or whatever. Pattern fill, you can do different types of patterns inside, and so forth. Okay, so that's fills, but let's say we made it a solid fill again. Then you have underneath that, you have line, and line again, you can play it, for example, with this. It's the same thing. No line, solid line, gradient line. I've never used the gradient line, I believe, but solid line, you can choose the color of the line that changes transparency. Usually width is something you want to play with. Now they add this sketch style, which is pretty cool. You can make it a broken line. See, isn't that cool? Let's make it transparent so there's no fill. Okay, you see it made it like cartoonishy. Any others that are interesting? That's kind of cool. That was recently added. It didn't used to be there. Compound type, if I want it, you can't even see that actually, but there are two lines here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Dashes we can make. And there's all kinds of other things like with arrows. So for example, if we take this line, make it a lot thicker, you can add arrows to it. Okay, you can make different types of arrows and stuff. We can arrow size. Sometimes they become ugly and so forth, but it can be nice. Udi, did you have any other comments about that?
No.
Okay, now something else we can do here is this thing is effects. So effects, you don't use them much, but like you can sometimes drop a shadow. Okay, maybe I want to drop a shadow. You see it drop the shadow over here, and you can play with the shadow too. So we can make the shadow bigger. Okay, we can make the angle different of the shadow. You can really do all kinds of artistic effects with this. You probably won't really want to do that much. And there are all kinds of things like 3D formatting it. I don't know. You can make it look all kinds of weird stuff. In general, if you're not somebody who understands art, it's really hard to use these things. But shadows sometimes are nice. Okay. This is
I
again
like the
size.
glow option.
The glow option. Okay, wait a second.
Yes.
So the glow
I use
option.
it a lot. Yeah,
let's-
for the
let's-
lines.
Let's make a different shape here. Let's make a shape like this. And then, for the lines, for this. So let's see, glow
Yes.
option. Glow preset, make this thing glow. Okay, so we have a glowing line. And of course you can play with how it looks. These tools are very powerful. It's just you have to kind of have some an eye or whatever to play with them. Often, like a shape like this, you have these little handles here, which you can change how curved they are. Look, we can make an end gate. Cool. I didn't even know that. Right? You can change how curvy they are, which is pretty cool. Now, something very important though is that, and this 95% of the people who use PowerPoint do this. It drives me crazy. Okay. I want to write Adi inside here. What do I do? Answer number one, please.
Double click.
Huh?
Double click on this.
That's
Just to
answer
start
number.
typing.
Okay, that's answer number two. What do 99% of the people do?
Put another form
And the
with
text box on top.
Here, put a text box in, right? Adi. Now, this is something useful because a text box is much better for writing text than a shape. But it means that these things are two separate shapes, and I move one and move the other and do all kinds of things. They don't work together. This is
Group
not the
them.
way to do it.
Group
The
it.
way to do it is, okay, Roman said double click. The real way is not double clicking, but hitting F2. F2, you should know in Office products, is always edit text. Okay, and then we can write whatever. We can write Adi. Oops. Okay, or you can right click and hit edit text. All of those things are the text. And then, now, one of the reasons I told you about this, so that I can make it bigger or smaller or whatever, is because this text options over here on the format shape, it lets us play with the text. Okay, and then we have, this is the text fill, like the color. This is if we want it to be artsy fartsy with shadows and stuff. But this is the most important one, is text box. Okay, for example, I want it to be at the top of the shape, or I want it to be vertical like that. Okay, and the margins. So you see there are margins here. If I make the margins different, well, let's make it. Let's make this horizontal and middle the way it was before. Okay, and let's say I write Adi Timin. Oops. It jumped down and it made it ugly. But if I change the margins in here, I can get it back into one place. Okay. Good. It's very important and useful.
Or you
Yes,
can
I didn't know it.
do a
What?
text box and group it.
You can do a text box and group it and everything screws up. In other words, don't do a text box and group it unless you have to. And you have to because you need a bit more powerful tools for your text. But 99%, 95% of the time, you can just use what the shape lets you do. Even on even on a line, I think you can add text. This one doesn't let me for some reason. Sometimes you can add text to a line. But usually do it with the shape itself. Sometimes, yes, there's reasons to add text boxes. Most of the time, the reason is because you don't use PowerPoint well enough. And then it causes everything to go wrong. Just okay. Now something else. About text. So we have the text over here, and this happens not only in shapes, but it happens often. And there's actually a lot of space between the A and the T, like between the two lines over here. And that space doesn't always fit and so forth. And what we can do is go into the paragraph. So in home, we have this paragraph section, and you can either press this button, or if you don't remember where it is, you click on this little thing to expand the paragraph. And the same thing is with Word, pretty much. And there's this line spacing. First of all, before and after should probably be 0, but line spacing, the single line spacing is quite large for most fonts. Okay, so you can go multiple and make it something like 0.85 will still be okay. Now, remember the F4 button? I just had to click like 25 clicks to do that, but F4 will do it for me in one click. So if I want to do it to this shape too, I just press F4, and now when I do that, I get small spacing, which is often nice for getting things close to each other. Okay, so 0.85, you didn't notice that I have less than a line space over here, do you? Okay. Now, Udi mentioned something important that I didn't mention before. We have two shapes. They make a picture. What should we always do with these two shapes? Udi, what should we do with the two shapes?
Group them.
Group them. So we use the Control or Shift buttons. What's the difference between Control and Shift? I can't remember right now. Either the Control or Shift button will select both shapes, and then either right click, but you have to right click when you have this, you see how the cursor is like move everywhere or on one of the handles, because if I do it over here, it unclicks it and you get pissed off after you just clicked on 200 things. Okay, so right click over here and you do group. Okay, or you could just press Control G. Now this is a group, so when I move it or I change the color or something, it will affect the whole group. However, sometimes I want to do things that are not for the whole group. So then I can click inside the group. I can also, no, I can't. I thought I could tab to go through. There's, tab doesn't, yeah. Okay, tab will let me scroll through the different shapes inside. Sometimes that can be helpful. I can move this by itself inside the group, and you see that the frame around the group changes and stuff. But if I really want to do a lot of things separately, it's worth ungrouping. So either you do group, ungroup, and then Shift G is the group, and Control G is the group, Control Shift G is the ungroup, or with the right click and group. So you should really group things. It's also helpful when you like want to copy things and bring them to another slide, right? You can put it over here. Now, there's a problem here because I want to resize my shapes. So I can choose this and resize them, but sometimes things get screwed up when I resize them. Like, look how I didn't want it. I didn't want Adi Timan to be like that. Does anybody know what you can do, but be careful with it? Do you understand what I was saying is the problem now?
I'll repeat.
Okay, my problem was this. I copied this thing and I have Adi Timan nice on 2 lines right there, right? And Lexical on 2 lines there. But I wanted to make it smaller. And I went and I made it smaller. This is not what I wanted.
Yeah.
This is horrible and it happens all the time. And 95%
Then I
of
usually, when it happens, I just downsize the text.
So, okay, but downsizing the text is the correct way to solve it. However, sometimes you have a lot of text and so forth and so on, and you don't have time and you don't want to deal with it, right?
So what's
and
the trick?
sometimes it's more complex. So I copy this, right? And now when I go to paste it, instead of just hitting Control V, okay, where I copied it, okay, I do Control Alt V, or I can go to, let's see, where is it? Home. Maybe I can go right click. Okay, right click. I do, that is what I wanted, but.
You want to paste it as a picture?
Here, look, yeah, paste, and then paste special or paste picture. Paste special, and I can choose, like, for example, a PNG or something else.
But then you can't edit the text anymore.
That's why I said that you have to be careful. You're correct. Then I can't edit the text. I don't think there's a real workaround for keeping the original thing and resizing, but often you just want to resize things or whatever. And so it's really makes it more comfortable to just copy it as.
And also it can make your file size very big if you keep copying pictures.
Okay, though PNGs and so forth, if they're shapes like this, are very small. So I don't know how much that affects it. But no, in general, I agree with you, Udi. You should keep the source, right? Which is copy and pasting regular. But sometimes, especially if you're, it happens quite often that I copy as a picture because starting to resize all the text and reshape all
it's a pain.
is a pain in the neck. So, so you can either again use Control Shift V. Oops.
Yeah, there's also all this thing is,
and choose which one you want. Yeah, what were you saying?
Yeah, there's also an option to keep the source formatting or the target formatting or.
Oh, that's a real pain in the neck.
Yeah, it's a pain. And
what you should do with that is you copy onto my slide, whatever you copied, and then hit right click, reset slide, and it'll put the font back the way you want it. Okay.
And one more thing that is very useful, but I always need to figure out again how to do it, is to copy text from a text, to copy code from a text file, very long code, C code, whatever, and to keep the formatting of the code with all the coloring and everything. I know how to do it with Notepad, and
that
both into Word and into PowerPoint.
Okay.
If you want to copy a code section, I'm sure there is a good way to do it also in GVim. To keep the source and
GVim, you have to have GVim for Windows, so which is not something.
Anyway, for Notepad, it's very easy. I can.
Okay, how do you do it?
It's I can show it next time. It's part of my.
Okay.
You know, it takes me 1 or 2 minutes to figure it out again each time, but then it's very useful.
That sounds like a cool option. I don't know.
I'll show it next week.
Okay, we're actually getting close to 1 o'clock, and we probably should stop around 1. But I want to show you some other things, of course. So let's say something that is really important for me to show you. Okay. People are very uncareful with their layout, and it drives me crazy. Maybe I'm too perfectionist with this, but you see that there are these things here that you can move around, and they can help you line things up. And there are also these grid lines which can help you line things up. You can add them or subtract them by hitting grid lines and guides, and then they disappear and don't bother you. Okay, but what I use all the time, let's say I make a bunch of shapes, right? I make one of these guys, and then one of these guys, and one of let's say these guys, and I want them to be lined up on the same line, so I can go and move it around. And you see, there's this thing that they added several PowerPoints ago where it shows me this dynamic line, and I know it's lined up. But the real way to do it is use a range and a line. So I can just select all of these guys, okay? And then I go to this here on the home tab, I go to arrange, and in arrange, there's a line, and I can align to a certain side. So for example, I want them all on the bottom. So they're all lined up nicely, perfectly. I can move my grid line. You can see that they're all on the same line over here, okay? But you see that there's a different distance between them, and it's not like this is centered and so forth. So what I would do is, I would again select these guys, right? And then I go again to the same place, or actually I have shortcuts here on my bar, of course. So there's this shortcut, right? One of the things is distribute horizontally. If I click that, now it makes the distance between these things. Let's make a bunch more of these. By the way, Control D does duplicate. So look, I want to make these to have an equal distance, be distributed nicely. So I select them all, okay? And then again, I hit that distribute horizontally. And you see that they're now, I mean, you can't see it very well because they're different shapes, but if they were, for example, let's do this. Okay. What I want to do now is make these all distributed nicely in this distance. So I click them all. I put them like all aligned at the bottom. And then I click the distribute horizontally and opa. And that's beautiful. Does everybody see the beauty of this? I know, Roman, you do these types of things, right?
Sometimes.
I tend to make fun of Roman here often, but Roman really makes nice slides, even though he doesn't use the fonts that I set up, but that's okay. I don't mind that. Really try to use these alignment things. You can also do other things. Like if I only select one thing, and for instance, I go to this one, which is align center, what is it going to do? Does anybody know? Let me hope this works. It works in Visio for sure. I think it works here too. Does anybody know what it's going to do?
To slide center, right?
Exactly. It's going to put it at the center of the slide. Let's move it over here and you'll see. It puts it at the center of the slide and I can do it over here too, right? So put it exactly at the middle of the slide. So those are kind of cool features that help you do things. What else did I want to show? Okay, of course, moving back and forward. Look, this triangle, let's make it have a better, is now in front of this triangle, but I want this one to be in front. So there you can right click and it says bring to front or bring forward.
Bring forward and
or
backwards never works. Only bring to front
No,
and to
no,
the
no.
back.
They work. It works perfectly. It's just you have to click it a lot of times.
Yeah, but
Because
it's always so confusing.
there's always a FIFO, or there's some stack
Yeah,
of
but
the
it's
order of the
confusing.
shapes.
Yeah.
It's very confusing. So usually, I mean, 99% of the time I use bring
Bring
to
to the
front
front. Yeah,
and
that
then go
works.
choose the next one and do bring to the front on
Yeah.
that, and it gets my order.
That's
But sometimes bringing front and back works. So yes, so bringing to the front and back. If you can't find it, it's under home arrange. Bring to front, bring forward, bring backwards. So the difference is bring to the front brings it to the top of the stack. Send to back puts it at the bottom of the stack. Bring forward just moves it one above, one above, one above. Okay, so let's say to show what Udi was talking about. Okay, if I take this guy and I do bring to front, it's going to be now in front of this. So now we have this one in front of this one in front of this one. If I just do bring forward, this will not jump in front of him. Let's put it over here. Okay, but it will jump in between them. See, it works, Udi.
yeah.
It works, but
Yeah, I know,
you
but
don't
it's,
usually use it because you don't know the order of the stack.
Exactly.
But sometimes when you have a lot of things and they're really causing you trouble, it's worthwhile using. Okay, let me see what else.
One other thing I can show next week
Yeah.
is equations.
Okay, you
There's
show
also
equations because
how to insert equations. There are a few methods, and there's also a very nice tool.
Okay, I usually use math types, so you show equations because I don't even. I mean, it used to be that PowerPoint and Word didn't work at all well with equations, and now they work well, and I haven't learned the new.
Yeah, I'll show it next week. There's also another nice tool called MathPix, where you can actually scan or take a picture, an image of an equation that you copy paste from some article or something, and it will translate it to the mathematical equation, and then you can put it inside a slide.
Okay, so you'll show that.
Yeah, it's very useful.
Okay, another thing that is really nice that they added in several PowerPoints ago, or maybe this one, is this icons. So under insert, there's this icons. You often want to do all kinds of things that have different pictures on them. First of all, who knows which clip art and stuff you find on the internet is free. Second of all, or has all kinds of watermarks, or it's hard to find things. These icons, there are tons of these icons that are really useful. So you can look through here and you can search, like if I want a chip, I can look for a chip and you can see, you can use this icon and then It's really nice. You can do all kinds of things with it. You can also make it so if you click on this chip, it'll go to a certain slide or and do a cool animation between them. There's lots of cool things that it can do. Okay, so that's these icons, and you can change colors and stuff with it. So these icons are really useful. I found out they make things look semi-professional if you use them. Okay, what else? Transitions, for those who don't know, when you're flipping between slides, there are lots of these cool transitions that you can put in. Don't overuse them. Either use none or fade or something like that. But once in a while, adding them, like for example, when you go from section to section, kind of can be really nice. I think. Okay, animations. So that's probably a whole nother talk. But if you go to animations and press animation pane, you get all the animations that were added. In general, never, ever, ever use anything but appear. Okay, so I go like this, and I hit appear, and they're over here, and then I can click on things. Now, after saying that, of course, you can use other things, but use it very sparingly. Okay, so don't have all kinds of things. Go and do some sort of a thing like this, or all kinds of this type of a thing that makes everybody in the crowd say, "What the hell? This guy has never made a PowerPoint presentation before." Okay, don't use them. Just use simple stuff if you use animations at all. Okay. Now, you guys will go and say, Adi, you use animations all the time. True, but I use them very sparingly. Okay. I use them to help enhance the presentation and not to go and say, wow, cool, I know how to press this bounce button. Isn't that cool that PowerPoint made that bounce? No, don't use it. Okay. What else?
It's also very annoying when you go back a slide and then you see all this bouncing.
Exactly. Don't use it. It doesn't exist. Use appear or use nothing. Okay. Especially when you're like at a presentation at a conference, don't use animations in general. By the way, Esteban will one day teach us. Esteban has left. But one day he'll teach us. He found a tool where you make animated GIFs on like graphs. It's really cool. You can make your graphs move and stuff. It really can help enhance different types of things you want to show. Like if I change, the x-axis, what happens on the y-axis and stuff. Really, really cool. We'll have him show us one day. On the slideshow thing, there's an important button here, which is use a presenter view and which monitor to use. That's if you want to have the presenter view. I'm not sharing in a way you can see it, but if you haven't played with that, play with it. Okay. I think that's pretty much what we wanted to discuss. Anybody, anything to say, add? One more thing before I finish. Okay. I have written something. This is an important point. Okay. Now I want a sub point. I press tab. It goes into, it makes the font smaller and not as bold. This is a smaller point. Another smaller point. Then I want to go and make another one. I hit shift tab. It goes back. This is another important point. Okay. Try not to get much smaller than this. Okay. Let's say I make a whole bunch of stuff. You see that automatically PowerPoint will resize it and make it smaller. This means you should have 3 slides, not 1. Okay. Don't do that. You can get to this size, but no smaller than that. Try not to keep the text big. Okay. If your text gets too small, you wrote too much on the slide. Now, sometimes there are things where you want to like add whatever. I have a picture that I want to sit here. So now what do I do? Because I want to continue writing below it, right? That's no good. So you can add an enter. And then the trick that I usually use, which is horrible, let's say this was thicker, right? Let's say this was like this, and I want this thing to go down. So I can just make this bigger, right? I can go over here and make bigger, 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 bigger until it's the right size. That works, but it's not great. Okay. Something else I can do is I can go in paragraph. Where's paragraph? This thing, I think. Okay. I can make the before text, like put a bunch of points there and it moved it, you see? Sometimes I have found before that I'm able to find a little slider that helps me do that, but I can't ever find it. I don't know where it disappeared to. Anyway, maybe here. No, that's not what I wanted. Anyway, that's another way to do it. Something else that's important to know. Let's say I was writing something real long. Okay, I have this guy over here, right? This guy's over here. And oh, that word is too long. So I hit shift, enter, goes down a line without making another bullet. Okay? Okay. There's probably lots of other stuff that I can show you about this, but any questions?
Just a comment. You can also split it to two text areas and then do whatever you want with spacing.
What do you mean?
You put the upper bullets in one text area and the lower bullet in another, and then just.
You mean do something like this?
Yes.
Yeah, that you can do too. But
And that
no,
makes
for
it easier to control distancing between.
you can do that too. The reason I didn't show that and I don't use it much is because it disrupts the general like template that we have, like the general approach.
Yeah, but you can also align it and then you even don't notice. So.
No, I agree. You can do it. It's an option. I sometimes do it, not usually though. I try to survive without it. Any other questions, comments? Did you learn anything? Tzachi, did you learn anything?
Yes, many things.
Good. So it wasn't. I was winging it. I didn't plan on this, but I actually use this stuff a lot. So I hope it was helpful. Okay, that's about it, I guess.
All right.